and we got the family pass once. So we got to like meet the players after the game, which obviously at Buffalo 1, that would have been so much better. Like you meet Josh Allen after that game. It's funny because I was telling everyone like the look in his eye, like he's trying to be, cordial, being nice and everything, but like you could tell he was so mad. And I was telling everyone like he doesn't want to lose again. Like the way he looks right now, he's so pissed. He never wants to feel this way again. And then you see since then, like he's just lights out, God mode while playing. So like I love it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to love a guy playing with a chip on his shoulder, makes everybody play better. Alrighty. Alrighty. Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Ball Knower Podcast Team Preview Series. And if you couldn't tell by the attire of my three guests, we're going to be talking about the Buffalo Bills today, joined by three very special guests. And I'll let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hey, my name's Sean.
What's up? I'm Tim, Bills Maniac on TikTok.
And what's up? I'm Tyler.
Alrighty. And like I said, we're going to be talking about the Buffalo Bills, running through what they did this offseason, what our expectations are for this team. And I'm pretty sure it's probably consensus it's Super Bowl or bust for this squad. There's no reason why they shouldn't get there. It's probably the most well-assembled football team in the NFL right now from top to bottom. So I guess the best place we can start here is probably just look over what they did in free agency, and obviously the big fish being Von Miller, signing him to an absolutely insane contract, but you had the money to do it. And going into the offseason, that was like, I think the one glaring weakness this team had, if you even want to really call it a weakness. It wasn't too bad. But bringing in Von Miller completely fixes that, obviously. So I'm just curious, how do you guys feel about that signing? Do you think they paid him too much? Is it worth it? Are you worried about the length of the contract and him saying he wants to play out the whole thing? Things of that nature.
I'm not worried at all. I mean, I understand it's a lot of money, but when you're Super Bowl or bust, it doesn't really matter. It worked for the Rams last year. I think my biggest thing was during the AFC Championship or AFC Divisional round last year against the Chiefs. The biggest thing was just seeing how much time Pat Mahomes had to scramble around behind that offensive line. He had so much time to work with. Because we've always had a few great guys on that D-line, few great edge rushers, or few solid edge rushers, but no one great. And Von Miller might be that final piece where we're not going to let a quarterback just scamper around for what it feels like forever on every single play. So I think that's the last piece, but I'm obviously pretty biased. So
Look, I love it. As far as people talk about how much money it is, the NFL salary cap just constantly goes up more and more every year, with next year being a big one going up. 6 years from now, that could be a contract that it's like, oh, that's a nothing contract, So I'm not concerned about that. Plus, we all know how things are. He can want to play it all out, but it's not like it's a guaranteed thing. So it could be something, 3 years in, hey, we're going to do this, gone, who knows? And yeah, I mean, that's Von Miller. He's proven it with multiple teams. Even last year, okay, he starts off kind of whatever with Denver, but we see as it got going, especially in the playoffs, he was lights out. And that's what we're looking for. Someone who can come in the playoffs and, like you say, take us to that next level, get us a ring finally.
Yeah, and I think it's just so cool that like a superstar, a guy that's going to probably be in the Hall of Fame, wanted to come to Buffalo. And you've seen all the press conferences, like he had Dallas on the phone, he had LA on the phone, he had more money, and he wanted to be here. He wanted to be with Josh Allen, and I think that's just huge for our city, our small town vibe. It's huge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, he was sort of the missing piece for that pass rush, kind of like Tyler said. It's what you guys needed. But one thing I didn't like about the whole situation is his comments recently, where he said that he would have went to Dallas for less money after he had already signed with you guys and had become integrated with the team. Because I just, from the outside looking in, that felt like a weird comment to be making in hindsight. So I was wondering if that was something that bothered you guys, or if it's something you don't really care about.
I think the media, like, it's so tough when stuff's fragmented like that. Like there was that whole Tannehill situation where he didn't mean what he said. Yeah, sure, he could say that, but he's here. He's bought in. The teammates already say, he's doing all this in practice, and he's holding camps down in Miami, and like a ton of other Bills players that went to those camps, and so like he's already with the team. Everyone knows he's bought in. I'm not too worried about it. He's a superstar.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it seemed like just words, as they say. People these days hang on everything that you say, even though we all misspeak, we all just say random stuff. Sometimes you say something, even if you are, all right, yeah, I was gonna go there. Like, that's just him being honest. That's cool. If he wanted to be a Cowboy, that's fine. He's a Bill now. And I don't think he's gonna go out there like, no, I don't want to really play for the Bills. Nah, he's gonna go out there and be Von Miller still. You can say that's a potential future Hall of Famer right there. And I think he's looking for his third ring. So I'm not bothered by it. So.
Yeah, if this had come out in like late August, early September, right before the season started, maybe I'd be a little bit worried, but it's slow. It's the off season. This is when these comments are going to pick up and get attention. So I'm not too worried at all. Plus, I mean, you look, there have been players that have been in spots they don't want to be, and they still win games. Kawhi Leonard wanted to be in LA, and he won Toronto a championship. He was there for 1 year. They got what they needed out of him. If that's what happens with Von Miller, I will be a very happy Bills fan. So
Yeah, that's fair. Now, looking at the rest of the offseason in terms of big additions, not counting the draft because we'll look at the draft separately, there weren't a ton of big name signings for Buffalo. Obviously, Von Miller was the big fish, but bringing in guys like Roger Saffold and OJ Howard and Jamison Crowder are, at the very least, excellent depth pieces, which I think Saffold will end up starting. So I guess it's the wrong way to put it with him. But were there any other signings that stood out to you guys, or was it just kind of Von Miller and everybody else was bonus?
Yeah, essentially. So we like you say, it was a lot of fill-in spots. You added some to the offensive line. So you got, okay, I can get you to start right away. Add some more depth to the defensive line. We all know it's been an okay D line, but like Star, you don't know if he's going to be playing or not. When he's playing, he's great. I do like him there, but he's still a question. What you got? Greg Rousseau. I'm really hoping here he's going to take off some with Von Miller. I know he's been working with him some, so I'm hoping that's going to help him out and everything like that. But when you add more guys to the line there as well, that's still the only thing going to help. We all know injuries are going to happen, so I'm glad at the depth. Not only that, but Brandon Beane through his years has proven he is good at finding those guys that are like, all right, this guy, he's kind of maybe at the end of the career kind of, and now the guy comes out and gives us 4 really good years. Someone, that, all right, I love this guy, so I'm liking the signings, and I'm sure a few weeks into the season, there's going to be 1 or 2 of these guys that were like, yeah, that was perfect. Like, I love that signing. So.
yeah, I think other than Miller, it was Miller and the other guys, and the other guys are going to be great, just like you said, because I trust Brandon Beane with my life. I'm a lot more happy with the draft. I think that's where we filled in a lot more of the kind of missing pieces. I assume we'll be talking about the draft later. I won't talk too much about it, but I think that went very well, and that was more important than free agency to me.
I love the way that Beane addressed the pass rush situation. I mean, I remember watching games and just being, we are 1 step away to the QB all the time. It was just 1 step. And I love the idea that McDermott's got with like this 9 D linemen walking out there, like starting. He's got this huge rotation throughout the whole game. Daquan Jones is going to be great for that. Tim Settle is going to be great for that. We lost Harrison Phillips. Tim Settle is going to fill that role great. Ed Oliver's going into a contract year. He's going to be playing his butt off. Jordan Phillips, he's bringing him back. Shaq Lawson. I mean, we're bringing in the right names at the right times in their careers, and I think it's just been great work by Beane.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, none of these guys, at least at this very moment, stand out as guys that I think are going to be stars or anything for Buffalo, but they're meaningful role players at the very least. They're going to give you production. They're going to give you plays, whatever you need out of them, they can get that. So kind of on the other side of things, looking at some of the guys you lost, like Levi Wallace, Harrison Phillips, Darrell Williams, Cole Beasley, are any of these names guys that you think the Buffalo Bills are going to miss big time, or do you feel like, especially in the case of Levi Wallace, you found his replacement already, or how are you feeling about that whole situation?
We're going to miss Levi a lot. And he was always straddling that line. People like to jump on him a lot. He's no Tre'Davious White, but as far as depth goes, I think we're going to miss him. Kair's going to be great. He's going to be good, but he's going to be a rookie. And but yeah, that was the one thing where I was like, I wish we could have kept him.
Yeah, I think cornerback sticks out to me. Levi Wallace, like you were saying, gets a lot of crap from Bills fans. I feel like he was one of the more unpopular guys. But he was very serviceable. He provided depth. The Bills' cornerback room is not very strong right now, especially with we don't know how healthy Tre'Davious is going to be at the start of the season, so I'm a little bit worried with depth there. Another piece, Harrison Phillips. I think he's a bigger locker room presence than people realize. Um, if you watch like any interviews with like any of the Bills defensive players, they always talk about how Harrison was always talking to guys, always getting guys involved, staying late after practice. And I know that's said about pretty much everyone in the NFL, but I think losing Phillips would kind of be a bigger locker room loss than people like initially think.
I'm gonna go with Cole Beasley. I always liked his pretty sure hand. There was plenty of times where it'd be a 3rd and 13 or something. You're kind of like, and you're thinking, maybe Cole's gonna do something and make a wild little catch over the center of the field. Scramble a little, maybe get that first down. I'm not concerned because Josh Allen, he's gonna make it happen, and I do think Gabriel Davis will make a step up, but there's going to be a few 3rd downs where I think I'm like, man, I kind of wish, Cole was still out there. I feel like he was a good opposite of Stephon Diggs there. So, and then Levi as well. I guess I'm just trusting in Khair to step up. I live down like in Florida, like I say, so I've seen plenty of highlights of him and everything like that. So I'm having trust in him that he's going to step up in for him. So.
Yeah, I got to agree. I do think Wallace and Beasley are probably the 2 big losses here. Beasley, absolutely. Tim hit the nail on the head. He's such a reliable guy that you can just always rely on to get 2, 3, 4, 5 yards, whatever you need on 3rd down, pick up those easy first downs. And then Levi Wallace being your second corner, especially not knowing what's going to happen with Trey White. And Khair Alam looks great, but he's a rookie, so you don't know how long it's going to take for him to get adjusted. I do want to say this is probably the most complete team in the NFL right now, but there are some positions that do have me concerned, and I think the secondary would probably be on the top of that list just because of the health and the depth and things of that nature. But moving on from that, I guess we can kind of jump to the draft here. What were your overall thoughts on the draft?
I mean, I think we knocked it out of the park. Shoot, we started talking at the same time. I'll just finish up here quick, but I think we knocked it out of the park in terms of fit. Getting a cornerback and getting a running back were like the number 2 things on my board. I love the Elon pick. He was my guy. Like before the draft, I wanted him, and I know that wasn't the most popular spot at the late first round. There were a few other guys on the board, but I loved that pick. Cook, I'm not so sure about. I think he has a very similar play style to Devin Singletary. And I know you kind of just have to draft for best available, but it seems like we've got a lot of elusive running backs, and we don't really have a good power running back on the offense. Some people might say that's Josh Allen, and that's pretty fair. But I question the fit a little bit. I'm so glad about all the positions we filled, though. A lot of depth later on the lines, so I was very happy with it.
Yeah, I feel like we handled everything once again. I trust Brandon Beane. I try to tell everybody all the time, nobody's watching. We're all regular people. Nobody's watching as much as these people are. Beane has proven that he has a great scouting team with everything. Every year we're constantly getting good guys. Now, I'll agree with the Cook simply because I almost feel as well the running back is the thing. Singletary, his rookie season, was really showing us some flashes. I liked him, but since then, it's not been the same. Moss, I'm kind of up and down with him a lot of the time. So I'm hoping Cook can come in, but so far, that would be one position that I'm not sure Brandon Beane has nailed as well as he has all the other positions. And then we got punt god. I don't know if we're going to need him. I'm not sure that's going to be, but I mean, when you got a team that this complete, you're allowed to go out and do something like that. I'm sure he's going to get some plays for us, drop it down on the 2-yard line from way back where, one of them Randall Cunningham style kicks just all the way there. Like, I'm happy with it. I think I gave it, I believe, an A- on when I had ranked it. So I felt like we did very good on the draft. So.
Yeah, Bean doesn't really miss a lot when it comes to the draft. I thought he did. I mean, like you said, it's just such a complete roster already. We addressed the corner, we addressed the running back, and then he found athletes. Terrell Bernard, athlete, going to be great on special teams his first few years. Might even work into outside linebacker. Who knows? And like you were talking about with Beasley, missing Beasley, yeah. Jamison Crowder was a good pickup, but we might have a gem in Khalil Shakir. He was way high on a lot of people's boards, and we got him in the 5th, and that's great. And then we made the splash with Punt God. Just being such a good job with the draft. I was so happy.
Yeah, Shakir was probably my favorite pick you guys made because I'm a big Shakir fan. Now, around the time of the draft, from what I was seeing, a lot of teams kind of were lower on him because of his shorter arm length. Like he doesn't have a lot. His arms aren't very long, so he's not gonna be able to reach out and grab a pass out of midair. But he's one of those guys that it's like once he has the ball in his hands, he looks quicker. So getting him the ball short and letting him kind of create is going to be something that the Bills are going to be able to take advantage of very quickly. So maybe Cole Beasley isn't quite as big of a loss as I was making him out to be when we were talking about him earlier. But I mean, he's a terrific playmaker. And when it comes to James Cook, I think the biggest thing with him is his receiving ability. I think he's a tremendous pass catcher out of the backfield, and given Buffalo's kind of refusal to run the ball at certain points, which might be gone now that Dable isn't going to be running the show, but uh, having a back like that can really catch the ball out of the backfield and make people miss, and again create in space is going to be huge for them. And Cook is exactly that. Elam, I'm not super high on, but he's going to be a solid corner regardless. So I don't think they missed with any of their picks either. And obviously, Ariza kind of goes without saying he's incredible. Moving from that, I think the next question I have, we'll just stick with the running thing. Do you think losing Brian Dable is going to set this offense back a lot? Do you think they're going to be able to benefit from it? How do you think it's going to impact it?
It's impossible to know, obviously, but
right.
I'm happy with the way things are. Obviously, Dable, I always point to the rookie season or whatever with Josh Allen or whatever. It was still very much an up and down season. It wasn't until God, now I'm drawing a blank. The coordinator now.
And Dorsey.
Yeah, Dorsey. It wasn't until he came in, Josh Allen's second year, that you really start to see that big step forward, that big change and everything like that. And for the fact that Josh Allen was very much in his corner saying, hey, we got to get this guy. I want him to be the offensive coordinator. That leads me to believe, like, all right, Dorsey, like, he's got it. I believe he's going to have something. He's going to do stuff. He's already come out and said plenty, like he's got plenty in store for this team. I want us to run the ball more. I don't want as many called runs with Josh Allen. I'm one of the people who's always like, we can't do that. I don't want him getting beat up. I don't want any Cam Newton situation. Now, you get to the playoff time, go ahead. You unleash things. You do what you got to do. Regular season, I don't want to see the call runs. It breaks down to Josh has to go out and do it. Go ahead. Ken Dorsey's obviously a former quarterback. I think he understands the importance of the quarterback. So I imagine that he's going to try to dial that back a little bit on it. Only time's going to tell to see when kickoff starts.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think definitely the designed run. I also agree. I think Allen can scramble during the season, but I don't want him getting too hurt. I'm one of the more anti-Dable people, Bills fans in general. I didn't like his play calling a lot. I think he was very tentative in the third quarter of a lot of games. You saw the Bills had a lot of chances to create bigger leads in the third quarter, and you could really just step on another team's neck. And then a lot of dump passes, slant routes. Like, I want an aggressive offense, and I really think Dorsey's going to bring that in. I think he'll have a little bit more bounce with the QB runs, so obviously Dable is a great guy when it comes to like developing quarterbacks. He did a great job with Allen. Forever thankful for Dable, but play calling, I think Dorsey might be a step up. We'll see.
Yeah, it's always scary when you got someone that hasn't really done it in the league yet, but he's always been in the right place at the right time. Dorsey has been with the right staff, and also like that job, the OC job for the Bills, is probably one of the any OC in the league would love that job. You've got so many different things to your disposal. And so it's like big shoes to fill, big opportunity, a lot of pressure. I don't know. If Josh likes him, I like him,
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. If you've got a coordinator that your quarterback's confident in, and like Tim said, if he was really pushing for him to get that job, that's huge. That's obviously huge. And I do agree with the whole Josh Allen running the football thing. Like, he's a mobile quarterback. He's got the talent. But the Cam Newton situation is definitely a possibility if they don't dial that back a little bit, which is really unfortunate to say because Josh Allen is probably a better quarterback than prime Cam Newton was. Call me crazy. I think he is. So if he were to suffer that same fate, it would be extremely unfortunate. But you've got the guys in your backfield to really be able to run the ball. And maybe it's not going to be one of the best rushing units in the league, but you've got a solid offensive line. And at the end of the day, that almost matters more now than having a talented running back. Like, you can get production out of Singletary and Cook and Moss and Duke Johnson and whoever else might be back there. And on top of that, you've got one of the better fullbacks in the league with Reggie Gilliam, who doesn't get a whole lot of attention, but he's somebody that if you're really going to commit to running the ball is going to be a big impact, because he can be a tremendous lead blocker, or you can just run the ball with him. There's a lot of options for them to really take advantage of the run game with this team, and just let Josh Allen kind of do his thing. If he's got to get out of the pocket, got to move when things break down, that's another thing. But they do need to dial back on the designed runs for him and kind of let the running backs take over. And hopefully Brian Dable being gone will allow them to do that, which, I think that would be huge for them. So moving on from that, one of the bigger storylines in the playoffs was Gabe Davis. Obviously, he had the huge game late in the playoffs, unfortunately, ended up losing the game. But was that something you guys were anticipating? Did you think that was something he was capable of? And do you think he'll be able to continue on that path and break out as an even bigger receiver this upcoming season?
I don't want to say I predicted what happened in the divisional round, that 4-touchdown game. That would be totally unfair. I did not predict that. But I think a lot of Bills fans that I've talked to, the moment they knew Gabe Davis was capable of being something special was the Colts wild card round from the previous year. He made like 4 toe tap touch catches on the sidelines that really helped the Bills win that game. I mean, the Bills only won by, I think, 3 points over the Colts a few years ago. And so he, even as a rookie, could make some really difficult catches on the sideline. He's a big play guy. I don't know if he's going to be this consistent wide receiver that is going to be like, I don't know, remember the Bills had Robert Woods a few years ago. He's no Robert Woods. He's not going to be consistent, like 70 yards, a touchdown every other game. He's going to have big games. He's going to have nothing burgers. And I think if Bills fans expect that, they'll be okay with it. I think some Bills fans are starting to they want him to be more than he is. Accepting his role will make you content with where he's at, because that's all I think he's trying to be. So, yeah.
I disagree. I think he could be sort of a Robert Woods. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, you're seeing a lot of just big play stuff from him. But how many times did we hit him for that RPO pop pass, that like 15 yards out touchdown? We probably hit that 6 times on the year. Same play. And I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities for him. I saw something today. He bulked up, 20 pounds? He was 210 last season. He's 227 now. Damn. He's huge. And I think early in the year it's gonna open up opportunities for Diggs, and then it's gonna open opportunities for him later on. I think it's gonna be a good balance.
Yeah, that's exactly it right there. Is I think the Diggs to him, it's going to go back and forth, and Josh Allen is going to take advantage. He's going to know, he's going to look out there and be like, all right, they're coming after Diggs right now. Let's go over here to Gabriel here, or vice versa. I do think he's going to have a lot of big games. The Colts game, like you mentioned, man, that's exactly what I was thinking when I first saw it. It was that game where I was like, dude, every time you look, just right on the sideline, bring it in, like, yo, that's very veteran stuff to have that kind of level of wearing the field is where the out of bounds, everything. So for him doing that well, and then you see, all right, last year he's making that improvement. You see, as the same thing with Josh Allen, as I would say, I just want to see every year you're taking a step forward. You're making progress. You're getting better. He has done that. There's no reason, as you say, putting on 17 pounds, no reason to believe that he can't take that next step. And with all the weapons out here anyways, there's no reason to see why he can't be a solid, 7-touchdown guy for us, 800, 900, maybe even 1,000-yard receiver, depending on how dynamic this offense is. I believe Gabriel Davis will be a big part. I think at the end of this year, that's going to be a 1-2 punch that people are talking about. Hey, best receiver duo in the league. I do believe people will be saying Diggs and Davis. That's going to be one of the top ones.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think the concept of him and Diggs being able to play off each other is really going to bode well for him. You look at receivers that are, breakout candidates, or however you want to put it, this season, and none of them have that benefit of having Stephon Diggs or someone of that level on the other side of them to really draw the attention away from him to allow that kind of production. And then, like you guys said, once he starts to build up that production, it'll set up Diggs. And then you also have these other guys we've talked about, Jamison Crowder. We've talked about Khalil Shakir. There's a bunch of guys in this room that can really benefit from the attention that everyone's going to get. It's a great room. It's one of the best receiver rooms in football, and I'm really excited to see what it's going to be able to do. Now, another player on the offense that I think people are kind of anticipating having a breakout season, I know Bears fans are, considering we were kind of screwed out of getting him by you guys, is Ryan Bates. He's a dude that's just absolutely nasty, really, really mean in the trenches, really solid run blocker. How do you guys as Bills fans feel about him? Because when he was about to come to the Bears, everyone in Chicago media told me he was the second coming of like Quentin Nelson. And then the minute he was supposed to go back to Buffalo, he was a bum that is like 2 career starts or something. So the consensus, at least from what I've seen, seems to be pretty conflicting with him.
I think the Bates situation is very funny because you're right. There's people that are like, he was so good. Oh my gosh, he's showing such good fundamentals, but we have such a small sample size that the other side's just like, I don't know, guys. Like, he might have just had some really good games, had some really good matchups that time. I think he's got it. I'm really excited about what he's going to bring to the table. I was so worried when I was seeing those reports that he was getting offers from the Bears. I was like, if this is another Wyatt Teller situation, that'll be Bean's one downfall. You know, he just can't rein in his linemen. But thank God he didn't make the same mistake. Hopefully he works out.
Yeah, I'm good with it. If you see flashes from linemen, so much of offensive line is chemistry. When those guys are all working together, if you've got a guy who's got some raw talent and everything, flashes like that, he's going to go. When you've got veterans around him showing him everything like that, he's going to get better. He's going to make his mistakes or whatever. He's going to have guys there to help make him get past that, everything like that. And if you've got the raw talent, it's going to show up. He's going to be able to show up in games, and I'm happy with it. As you say, glad not to lose him. It's embarrassing anyways. Just when you think you've got a guy, you're signed up, and they're like, oh no, never mind. He's going over here. You're like, because then as you say, you've been hyping him up. You're looking this guy's stats up. You're looking at everything of him, and then now you're trying to find reasons that I didn't want him anyways. You know what? I'm glad he's gone. So I'm happy with it. As I say, it's all going to be a chemistry thing though with that line. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm glad this came out because it kind of gives me a chance to talk about something I wanted to, which was J.D. McKissic backing out of that Bills deal because we thought we had him. He backed out at the last minute, and he's the perfect pass catching running back for Josh Allen. I was absolutely livid when that didn't go through. But in terms of Bates, I don't know if he's Quentin Nelson, but you love to have him. I think he's got a lot of raw talent that, just like Tim said, it's going to continue to develop over the next few years. But I think he's just going to be a super solid guy, great for the running offense. I'm really happy to keep having him.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that McKissic thing. That is rough.
That pissed me off.
But like I said earlier, I think James Cook is going to be that type of running back for you guys anyway, and he's younger, and I think his ceiling's a lot higher. I've got a buddy that I have on my podcast quite often, and he's very adamant that little brother usually ends up better than big brother. So there are people out there already saying he's going to be better than Dalvin Cook, which if that's the case, oh my God, that, I mean, the league, it would just be over at that point. You give Josh Allen better Dalvin Cook on top of the receivers he already has. So that could have been a blessing in disguise for you guys. But when it comes to Bates, I do agree. He's going to have to develop a little bit. He is very raw, but for lack of better words, he's just one of those guys that's got that dog in him. Like, he is the epitome of a tough, mean lineman that's trying to beat the shit out of you just every single play. And if they can work on the chemistry and the technical aspect with him, I have no doubt that he's going to be a star, which, again, I hate. I really do. So close. And now we're stuck with God knows what at guard. But it was a big pickup, or big for the Bills retaining him, in my opinion. And then another position, there's a lot of position groups or a lot of positions that have guys that could really take a big step forward. We kind of touched on him a little bit earlier. What is basically this entire defensive line, just across the board, there's guys that have a lot of upside that can really take a step forward. So is there anyone that you see being especially good this year, taking that step forward further than the rest, or do you think it's going to be a collective effort, or how do you view this defensive line?
Boogie
I
Basham.
want. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. You said it before I did.
I was going to say Greg Rousseau. I had mentioned him earlier. Obviously, I live down here in Miami, so I got to watch him playing for the Canes and everything. And I love his size. The man's arms length, like it's freakish type stuff. That's the thing where if you get him, next to a great veteran like Von Miller, let Von just teach him, hey man, this is this, that. I do question how it almost seemed like he slowed down the colder the weather got. So I'm hoping that's something that after you live there, like say, I live down here where it's nice and warm. I do know it's a big adjustment when you get up there. Maybe it was just that first year, kind of something. But I'm looking forward for him taking that real big step next season, or this season rather, and seeing maybe 8, 9, 10 sacks out of him.
Yeah, eyes are definitely on Gregory and Ed Oliver. But I think Boogie Basham's going to be the sleeper that's going to come in and earn a lot more reps this year. I think he's going to be really good. He's got the body for it. He's got the fundamentals. He did great last year when he was in, always at the right place at the right time. I think Von Miller is going to help add to his situation. Yeah, I'm really excited for him.
I definitely want to get Epinessa's name in there because I think he has such a bag when it comes to how many moves he has that can get right past the offensive line. He's not the most physically crazy player you'll ever see, but I think when he comes in, the offensive line is going to be whooped after Von Miller maybe comes out, takes a breather. So I think Epinesa could be good, but definitely Rousseau. I think there's a perfect storm for Rousseau coming up this year because he's going to have Von Miller to work with. It's his second year, so there could be a little bit just of a jump when it comes to kind of honing all those raw skills. And I think the Bills coaching staff is absolutely perfect for him. We saw what they did with Josh Allen on the offensive side, just really raw talent, lots of physical capability. Didn't quite know how to hone that in yet. Bills figured it out. I think Rousseau could be the same thing on the defensive side.
Yeah, that's a weirdly accurate comparison, Rousseau and Josh Allen coming out, because Rousseau is one of the freakiest athletes we've seen in years. His size, his length, his athletic ability. I mean, he's a monster. He's a literal freak of nature. And if they can get the technical aspects of his game down, which having Von Miller, like you guys said, is so huge for that, he can be one of the best edge rushers in football very quickly. And then, like you said about AJ Epinesa, he's kind of the opposite, where, yeah, he's got a little bit of the athleticness to him, but he's very technical. He's very refined. He has the moves already, and it's just kind of perfecting them at this point. So his floor would be a little bit higher, I would say. And then Boogie Basham's another guy that's kind of on the in-between there, and Ed Oliver's a stud. This defensive line, if everybody pans out, which is very, very possible, is very much within the realm of possibility, could be one of the craziest front sevens we've seen in a long time. And that brings me to the linebackers here, because obviously Matt Milano, kind of goes without saying, is one of the more underappreciated linebackers in football. He's a stud. But then next to him, you've got Tremaine Edmonds, who is one of the more polarizing linebackers in football, I'd say, because you either love him or you hate him. So obviously that's my next question. How do you guys feel about Edmonds?
I don't like to say I hate any Bills player, but I'm certainly down more than most Bills fans I personally know on Edmonds. I think he gets a lot of great tackle numbers because the Bills' run defense hasn't been the greatest in the last few years. So when the running back gets to the second level, he cleans up on those tackles. He's very limited in what he can do coverage-wise. I haven't seen in the few chances he's been given to rush the passer, I haven't really seen too many great tendencies from him there. He's not a bad linebacker by any means, but I do think there's a lot of people that might overrate him a little bit. I'm much more in the Matt Milano appreciator camp than the Tremaine Edmonds one.
Yeah, unfortunately, Tremaine is almost more of an old school style of linebacker. We're not really doing a lot of that anymore. You want more of a Matt Milano, that guy who can go out into coverage and do stuff like that. Tremaine, as you say, he's good. He's a I don't mind him being a guy that's on at your linebacker core, but he's not what you are ideally looking for. if he goes in free agency, you're not going to be sitting there like, ah, man, like that's going to be a huge hit. Like I do feel like his skill set is easy enough to fill. It's just kind of like your big body linebacker. So yeah, I mean, I'm good with it. That being said, it's not terrible having him on opposite of Matt Milano because Matt Milano is so much better, going out in coverage and doing things like that. It's not a terrible combination between the two of them, but yeah, I mean, I'm Tremaine. I wouldn't miss him if they let him go next season. It's no big deal.
Yeah, it's such an interesting situation because when McDermott came in and he was building that defense, we lost our linebackers that had been there for a while. We lost Preston Brown, Zach Brown, the Reggie Ragland situation didn't work out, and you got to bring in a guy, and he's got to learn how to be that play caller. And first couple of years for Tremaine Edmonds, Kyle Williams was calling the front, right, and then he's retired, and now Tremaine Edmonds is calling the front, and he's a young guy. He's third year, and he's in the NFL, and he's calling the front six, and that's a lot to put on that guy. And so we're really harsh on him because he looks like he's a step late. He over pursues all the time. He'll get run out of his zone, and we get run on. Look at the Patriots game last year. That was, 3 passes. We can get run on, and so he doesn't force a lot of turnovers either. So it's easy to jump on him. And I thought maybe Bean and McDermott are talking like, hey, do we need to pick up like what was that Georgia linebacker's name that went really late? Like Nakobe Dean.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Like, do we restart, get it in the back pocket, reload? And I like that they're going to ride with him, see what happens, and get this front seven worked out. And then, if it doesn't work out this year and he's still a step late, he's still over pursuing, you see fundamental things wrong, then, you go get your big dude play caller first round pick, linebacker next year. But I'm glad we're sticking with him. Definitely controversial. Not our best asset, but I think it's still there. I think it's all there.
Yeah, I'm very much in the camp of someone who's not a big Edmonds guy. I don't want to brag or anything, but I like to take a victory lap here and there with Edmonds because back during that draft class, I got a lot of shit because I said Roquan Smith was going to be a better linebacker in the NFL than Trey Edmonds, and weren't a lot of people that thought that back then. But look where we're at now. So, but yeah, he's just a replaceable guy. Tim hit it on the head. He's very much an old school linebacker, not great in coverage. He's not going to provide you a whole lot there. And you would think that playing alongside Milano would kind of make up for that with how good Milano is in coverage, but it just doesn't. Like he's, at this point, I would say almost a liability in coverage to the point where you should be trying to find excuses to get him out of there on like 3rd and long and put in somebody else. Maybe I don't know if Balin Spector can become somebody. He's a pretty athletic dude. Maybe they're trying to put him in there or something, but I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Milano. I think he's a very replaceable linebacker, and I think Buffalo would be very smart to. I think this would be the last year on his contract, right? Yeah, because Roquan's about to lose his. So it would be smart to let him go. I don't think he's somebody you necessarily need to bring back.
Yeah, we're going to run out of room in the salary cap. There's going to be guys that we have to be picky. You can't just hand out a big contract to everyone when there's so much talent on the team. So Edmonds might be one of the first guys to go. And kind of quickly, when we're talking about age, I know he's only 24, but he's entering his 5th season in the NFL. I think this, you did say that, Sean, like it's starting to get to the point where maybe it's one more year. I don't know if I think that was kind of last year. Maybe it's the last year of his deal right now, but he's coming into the point where he's no longer first year, second year guy. Those excuses won't last much longer. I think they're already gone, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just, even though he is young, like you said, he's been in the league so long that he should have it figured out by now. There's no reason he should still look that rough out there if he's going to be anything. So anyone out there making excuses for him, I think it's kind of beyond that. You just got to accept him for what he is and hope Buffalo can figure it out next offseason, or who knows, maybe I'm wrong and he does take some sort of giant leap, but I don't see that being very likely. So the last position group here, we kind of touched on them with the corners, but didn't go over the full secondary. Obviously, the depth is not necessarily there, but the guys up top are some of the best in football. So as a whole, how do you guys feel about this secondary?
I think we're okay. Not having that corner 2 and I mean, I'm just praying that Trey is okay. It's tough. It makes it look not great on paper, but I mean, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, I think they're the best. I think they're the best tandem in the league. The Poyer extension is going to work out. Everything's been positive coming out of there, so I'm not worried about that. I think Poyer's top 5 in the league. I'm really high on him. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. I really do.
Yeah, I think one of the best safety combos in the league. I think there's some underrated guys that might be able to be okay this year. Dane Jackson, Jaquan Johnson. But I think the biggest kind of guy that people forget about is Taron Johnson on the Bills defense. He just got signed to an extension. And you think about 2 pick six 2 seasons ago, especially with the 101 yarder or whatever it was against the Ravens in the divisional round 2 years ago. He has that big play capability. He's very serviceable as a nickel cornerback. So there's guys that we can plug and play. The depth is my one worry, but when you talk about talent, it's I think kind of certainly in that top echelon of the league.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. When it comes to talent, you can't knock what we got between Hyde and Poyer. I'm 100% saying they're the best safety duo in the league. Trey coming back is going to be a big thing. ACLs aren't obviously what they used to be, going through surgeries like that. So you got to believe that he's going to come back and be, able to be himself, same old guy and everything like that. Then putting Khair out there, that's obviously that's a rookie. You're not sure what you're going to get. You're probably going to get some growing pains out of that. You just got to really hope that everyone stays healthy and rely heavily on that front seven to make it so their job isn't so hard. Make it so when you got, Taron Johnson or someone else, that it's not a big deal at all because, hey, they don't got time. Von Miller's already getting on one side, Rousseau's on the other. Like, you got to really rely. I'm trusting that front seven to bring enough pressure to where everybody else looks better anyways. And, then you get into a final 13 seconds, maybe not do prevent defense because you got a great, safety duo back there. Let's just trust everybody to do their thing and finish a game and get us a Super Bowl this season.
Yeah, I think absolutely the front seven is going to be huge for this secondary. The number one thing that makes the secondary better is having a great pass rush. And whether or not Rousseau is able to take that next step or not, you have Von Miller out there, and that should be enough to create at least more pressure than what you were getting last year. Obviously, Trey White coming off the injury is going to be the biggest thing here, like we've said. And ACLs are tough. You want to be optimistic because you see all these guys come back from ACL tears and they're pretty much fine, but playing corner, it's kind of a different beast. The amount of movement that's going to be required, the amount of speed, the agility, it's a little tougher there. But Elam, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of, but I think he'll be fine. And Taron Johnson, like you guys said, is great. And obviously you have the best safety duo in football. So starter-wise, there's no issue whatsoever. But if one of these guys does go down, there might be a little bit of panic because the depth, especially at corner, is not great. We kind of saw that last year with Trey White going down. The corners were a little iffy. They weren't terrible, obviously, but you also lost Levi Wallace, so you don't have him to rely on anymore. So it's tough. It's tough. But I mean, outside of that, there's really no weakness on this football team. And I've already said it, but I'll say it again. It's pretty much Super Bowl or bust with this team. And I think we can all agree on that. So before we wrap things up, I got a couple more questions. Number one, are there any players that we didn't quite cover or didn't get to talk about in depth that you would want to cover, give attention to, anything like that?
I think OJ Howard, if he's given any opportunities on offense, I know it's a very crowded offense. I think he could make the most of it. People forget how much talent he really showed earlier in his career before that injury. So it's going to be tough to get a lot of catches this year. But if he's getting those looks, I think OJ Howard could start to take a lot of time away from some of those other tight ends, some of those other receivers in the offense. I don't know if he's going to blow up for 1,000 yards, but I think OJ Howard is certainly a guy that we haven't mentioned yet that kind of has to at least be mentioned once.
I remember hearing some interesting thing about how the squib kick call never made it to Tyler Bass in the huddle, and I'm wondering if that's gonna mess with him at all. I don't know. He's been such a stud, and I I think he's worth mentioning as well. Tyler Bass is such a
Absolutely.
freaking good kicker, and I never want to, because kickers are kickers. So I'm just gonna knock on some wood, but
Right.
yeah, great player.
Dawson Knox. I want to see him take a next step, go on by bringing in OJ Howard. That is a huge thing right there. All right, now you got someone. We might have some interesting packages where you've got both of them out there at the same time. Knox, he makes such incredible catches sometimes, but then sometimes that one that's right there too, he drops it somehow. So I'd like to see him come on with consistent hands. But I'm curious. I feel like he's going to have a very big, good season. Obviously, with all the ball is going to get spread around so much between everyone with all the new additions and with everyone we got. Obviously, great Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs. I feel like Knox is going to be a nice little safety blanket there for Josh Allen. I'm looking forward to him taking a major step forward for us here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree big time with Knox. The quarterback's best friend is a reliable tight end, kind of like you said, to be that safety blanket. And with the way Buffalo's offense works, you have so many dynamic playmakers at receiver. You need that one reliable guy. And like we said earlier, it was kind of Cole Beasley for them last year. I could absolutely see Dawson Knox stepping up and being that guy for them. And he's in a really interesting spot league-wide, considering there's not a lot of elite tight ends right now. There's probably about 5 or 6 guys, and then past that, everyone's kind of in the same boat. So he has a real good shot this year if he can take a step forward to cement himself as one of those 5 or 6 guys that are above everybody else. And obviously that'll bode well for him whenever payday comes and just in general. So he's in an interesting spot. He's definitely a player to watch for this team. So I guess my last question, even though we've kind of agreed it's Super Bowl or bust, what do you think do you have a record prediction? How do you think this team's going to do long term? And are you afraid at all that you might suffer the same fate as last year? I guess we'll put it that way.
13-4, maybe 14-3. It's going to be some stupid loss. Like, it's going to be a loss to the Jets for some unknown reason, just because that's football for you. It's going to be something like that. But no, Buffalo, barring some crazy injury, as I told you, getting to see Josh Allen after the Houston loss, his first playoff game, that loss, right after the game, they've just changed, they're adjusting their clothes and everything. The look on his face, how disappointed, he wants to be cordial. He's being nice, kind of faking that smile with everyone. But you can kind of see that look of disappointment. You could feel the hurt just like that from him. And I was telling everybody then that this man does not want to lose. And that's showing you right there. Like, it hurt him, and he's come back since then even more on fire. I can only imagine how much more it hurt losing last year the way it did. I almost feel like it's going to be a situation where, guys, I'm not even giving their offense another chance. I'm taking this down. Like, we're going to score so many points where they need 10 points to get us in 13 seconds. Make it impossible. I believe that Josh Allen is going to do some crazy stuff. Maybe even be the first. I believe it's the first since Warner to get the MVP and Super Bowl MVP in that same year. I don't believe anyone's done it since Kurt Warner. And I'd like to see Josh Allen be that guy. Just like, yeah, man, this is my league now. Okay, I'm that guy.
Fair.
Yeah, I think I agree. 13 wins, maybe 12 wins. You never know. You got to start with winning the division, right? 5-1, 6-0, whatever it's got to be. But I honestly think after that, it is number 1 seed or bust. I think, we play that game at home against the Chiefs, and I think there's a different outcome there as well. I think it's just that extra, and the bye week too. I mean, just that extra step that's going to give us all the momentum that we need to get to the championship. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think 12 is kind of the floor. It's Super Bowl or bust. It has to happen this year. I mean, you asked if we're scared. I'm terrified. I can't imagine how tough it's been for Bills fans who are alive for the 4 Super Bowl losses. But for me, I was born 2003, so I was born towards the start of the drought. I didn't see a Bills playoff appearance until I think my junior or sophomore year of high school. I remember crying when Kyle Orton threw an interception against the Raiders when I was like in middle school, and then the Bills were officially eliminated from the playoffs. There's so many different years I could talk about where the Bills underperformed or didn't quite get there. I mean, I sat for 30 minutes after the Chiefs game this year, just thinking about the end of that game. 13 seconds, we couldn't get a stop in all of overtime. Anything can happen in football. It's Super Bowl or bust, but I'm very scared about what happens if it doesn't quite happen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've already said it twice. It's Super Bowl or bust. I don't see any world where that's not in the minds of every Bills fan. But you guys brought something up that did give me one more question. How do you feel? Like, do you feel that the Bills did enough this offseason to stay competitive within the AFC, given the way everyone else kind of like skyrocketed? Like, we saw a renaissance within the NFC or the AFC this offseason with everyone else just getting 5-10 times better. Do you feel like the Bills did enough to keep up with that? And are you worried about the upgrades the teams in your division, like the Jets and the Dolphins and the Patriots, might have made this offseason?
Not worried about the Jets. Not worried about the Jets. Not that worried about the Dolphins. Like, yeah, Tyreek Hill, good. Jalen Waddle's going to be better. Is Tua the guy? So I'm not too worried about it. I still think we're a league above. I still think we're a league above. Yeah, you can talk about the depth at corner. You can talk about, linebacker questionable stuff. Can we get run on? Probably. But I just don't. I don't know if there was enough done on the divisional defenses to stop this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think within the division, my brother's a Jets fan. I was so happy for him after the draft. They knocked it out of the park. They're still a few years away from kind of competing with the Bills, but I think the Jets are headed in a great direction. I don't know how I feel about Tua. The Dolphins did make some improvements. I wouldn't be surprised if they stole a game from the Bills this year, but again, not competing. And I think my take with the Patriots is the Patriots got worse this offseason. They really didn't add any crazy pieces. They lost a few kind of no big names, but they lost a few guys in free agency where it's just you look at that roster, there's only so much Bill Belichick can do. I mean, Bill Belichick, you have to have respect for his coaching, but he can only do so much with so little. Mac Jones doesn't scare me one bit. So in terms of the division, I'm not worried at all. If we're talking about later in the postseason, I think the Chiefs are kind of in a weird spot right now. I think the Chargers haven't proven anything yet. I think the Chargers are getting way too much hype this offseason. That's probably my hottest take. But I don't see anyone that can really compete with their roster in the whole AFC.
It all comes down to quarterback. Everybody knows that. Peyton Manning was no matter what they did, you always know he's going to the playoffs because he's a great quarterback. Drew Brees, you always know he's going to the playoffs with the same. It doesn't matter. When you got a top 5 quarterback, you're always going to be able to compete. As long as Josh Allen is playing at the level he's at, Buffalo will always compete. And Brandon Beane has shown that he is a great GM. Hands down, he is a great GM. So I don't believe it's going to be something like whatever happened, with Peyton Manning and the Colts, where like they never did enough. That man should have had a lot more rings, and they never were getting him enough. Never had enough weapons. Never have him a defense. You see the way this team is stacked. Peyton Manning never had a team as stacked as well as this team right here is. So as long as we got a quarterback, we're good. Mac Jones. Yeah, I'm not sure about him. I don't trust his arm. I don't trust Tua's arm. I don't really trust Zach Wilson's arm, if I'm honest. So as far as the division goes, I'm not scared about any of them. They all still got to prove it. It comes down to quarterback, and Buffalo has an elite one. They have quarterbacks with a question mark next to their name. So Buffalo, for at least the next 3 years, I feel like this is our division easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. When I was naming off the teams in your division, I do agree that the Patriots got a lot worse. I just had to lump them in there. I don't think they would. I think they're going to finish last in the division. That might be a bit of a hot take, but I think the Jets got a lot better than them. I think the Dolphins are a lot better. We're going to see a different type of Patriots squad this year. I've been doing my record predictions behind the scenes, and I've been struggling to find 5 or 6 wins for the Patriots, if I'm being totally honest. So I wouldn't be worried about them. The Jets, I think, are an interesting team to look at because they got marginally better this offseason. And Zach Wilson might be in the best position out of any of the second-year quarterbacks. And Other than Trey Lance, I would say those are kind of your top two. And if he can really get it done with the weapons he has, because he has a lot of weapons, they could be scary. They could be a little bit scary. I've gone on record saying that I think they would be like my dark horse playoff contender, so to speak. And the Bills, or not the Bills, I'm sorry, the Dolphins, it does come down to Tua, and I'm not perfectly sold on Tua. Like, yeah, you have Tyreek, and you have a new head coach that's going to revamp the offense, and the defense isn't bad, but Tua's Tua at the end of the day. So, not too much to worry about there. I don't think they'll have any issues winning their division, but once they get to the playoffs, I think it will be interesting to watch because the AFC, those guys at the top did get a lot better. So, I don't know. It's going to be a very competitive playoff run for every single team involved, and I think it's going to be super fun to watch from the outside looking in because I'm not going to have any stake in it. But for you guys, I'm sure there's going to be a couple games where you're ready to absolutely rip your hair out, not necessarily from the Bills playing bad, but just from other teams being so good that, it's one of those things where you just can't do anything about it. But that's the best kind of football, right? When you're ready to rip your hair out over the other team just playing up to you, that's the best kind of football. But that pretty much wraps up what
that was last year's divisional game.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the playoffs this year. I would not be surprised to see, maybe not to the same extent. We're probably not going to see somebody else go down in 13 seconds, score like Mahomes did, but that type of game where it comes down to the wire and you just got the ball flying all over the place, I wouldn't be shocked to see a couple of those in the playoffs. But like I said, that's pretty much all I have here, unless you guys want to throw anything else out there. And on top of that, feel free to plug anything you've got going on. It's your opportunity to do that right now.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having us on. I just started actually a podcast, the 20 Questions podcast with Tyler Aitken. And for any Bills fans listening, my very first episode was with the safeties coach, Jim Salgado. That would be really fun to listen to. I'm sure I will have all the links posted down below, but I would really appreciate you looking at that. And thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, man, anytime.
Yeah, right on. Said it at the beginning. You can find me Bills Maniac or at BuffaloMadness on TikTok. It's really just making stupid stuff, just messing around. I like to go to a bunch of games, so perhaps you'll find me at an away game somewhere out there.
Yep. And like Tyler said, all the links will be in the description below. I make sure to do that because I know nobody's actually going to go out and look stuff up because people are lazy and they don't care enough to. But if the link's there right in front of them, they're more likely to do it. So I'll make sure to put those links in the description below. And that is going to wrap up everything. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. It was a ton of fun. And yeah, to everyone watching, make sure you let us know in the comments down below if you disagree with anything we said. Maybe we overlooked a player or overrated a player. Let us know that. And above all else, just let us know how you think the Bills are going to do. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. We're shooting for 250 subscribers by the start of the 2022 NFL season.